Good evening and welcome to the North Rose-Wolcott School Board of Education meeting tonight. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've been called to order. May I have a motion, please, to approve tonight's agenda? Paul and Linda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Tonight we have some presentations, and so I'll turn it over to Mr. Pullen to introduce those.
Thank you, Mrs. Collier. It's a great pleasure to have one of our fifth grade superstars, Mr. Mason Granger, with us tonight. And I'm going to ask that Ms. Rupp and Ms. Kunzer come up and offer up some support for Mason as he presents. And I don't know, Ms. Rupp, do you want to say a few words at the podium with Mason? And I don't know, Ms. Kunzer, if you want to join him, that would be great. So Ms. Kunzer is his special guest, and I'm pretty proud of Mason, and I'm sure many of his fifth grade teachers are as well. So we're going to have Mason start.
So I am so proud and excited to have Mason Granger here. He is one of our fifth graders at the middle school, and he has been working very hard throughout all of his classes, and especially he's been working with Ms. Kunzer in his musical therapy class. So after he speaks, he has a short, exciting presentation for you that he would like to share. So we're just really proud of him and happy to have him here tonight. You ready?
Okay, I'm going to start. Hi, my name is Mason Granger. I am a fifth grader here at the middle school. This is my first year attending North Rose-Wolcott School District. Last year, I went to a different school and I've grown up a lot since then. I have made big changes in myself this year. Coming to North Rose-Wolcott gave me a fresh start and a chance to change my behavior. I have met many friends here at the middle school, and I really like my teachers. Every day, I get the chance to have lunch in my classroom with my friends and my advisory. This allows me to be with my friends in a quieter place, socialize with my friends, and play chess with my buddies. I love that we have clubs at the middle school. This year I joined the AV club where I'm learning to use stage lights and sound systems. I've also continued music therapy and play the ukulele. Music therapy has helped me to stay focused in school and relax. This year I was courageous. I played a Christmas song for my classmates and the principal. My goal for the end of the year is to play the national anthem on my ukulele in front of the school. I am proud of myself for what I've become. Thank you for believing in me and helping me achieve my goals this year.
All right, so now Mason is going to share a very special surprise for everyone. Do you know this? Do you want to use it?
I'll play Grinch.
Mason played this
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. We're so delighted to have you here. And I'm glad you're enjoying your year and having a good year. And I love your Mr. Grimm's sign. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to say something to Mason?
Good job. Mason, what's your favorite class?
I don't really know.
Because you like all of them. Yeah, I know it.
Mason, I have a question for you. You know,
Yeah.
you referenced music therapy and how it's helped you focus and how you've grown up quite a bit this year. What specifically would you attribute it to? Is it confidence? I mean, because I would never have been able to stand in front of a group of people and play an instrument at your age.
Mm.
You think so?
Yeah, I've done lots of practice with this.
I bet.
And I did chorus, so I had to play right in front of a lot of people.
All right, very good. We're proud of you very much. Thank
I
you.
had a lot of practice playing in front of people.
Mason, I think you should come back in the spring and do a duet with Mr. Pulley.
I can actually tell you, Mason, my heart grew 3 times today. Just like a break. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful.
All right, so we're going to keep going right on, and I'm going to ask Ms. Pagliatti to come up and, you know, you heard from the recent 4-county update about the process that the Wayne Craig Lake BOCES is undertaking, getting around to the 25 component school districts and making sure our library materials are scrutinized. Megan's gone through a similar process with our building principals, so I felt like it'd be appropriate for her to come in and talk to the Board of Education about the age of the materials, the process that the group will follow at the conclusion of her work, and really some of the things that we need to factor in when we head into budget season. So Megan, I'll let you go ahead and start.
All right, thank you. So as you know, you've really committed a lot of funds to make our libraries an inviting place at all 3 buildings. And so going through this work of doing some work in the library with what our resources are in there, we're hoping will really make it really user-friendly and great learning spaces for our students. So really thinking about having our students develop experiences where they can engage in learning activities. This is about the resources they might use to do that, even outside of the classroom, because they can take the library books with them home and wherever they go. And again, this is our instructional practices, having those updated resources. So I'll give you a minute to look at this. This has each building, library, and then our total district of how many materials are in each library. We have our materials per student based on the number of materials we have by the number of students we have, and then the average age of the materials. So of course, that being the average, we definitely have some that are much older and much younger in our libraries, or newer, I should say. And I don't know about you, but when I looked at it and saw 2002, I thought, oh, that's not that long ago. And then I was like, oh, it's 22 years ago. Time flies. So it really is important that we keep up to date with the resources that we have in our collections. This became very apparent when we had a new librarian come on board at the middle school, and the amount of books and resources we had in there was quite overwhelming for her to get a handle on what we even had to offer students. So this process that we're going through is one that will be beneficial to our staff and students. So what our BOCES supporters do is they come in and they work alongside the librarians to weed out our libraries. And what this is really going through and getting rid of any books that are out of date, that might be damaged, might not have relevant information. And so the reason that we do some of these things is that it'll really increase the appeal for students, and it'll save their time and our staff's time when they're trying to look for some specific topics. If we know what's in there, we have it narrowed down to those high interest topics or the research pieces that they would be looking for. Like I said, we don't want to have books in there that have inaccurate information. This does not mean removing history books, however, because there are some different genres that we notice have a very, very old age to them, and those are some things that we would want to keep because we don't want to erase the history that we do have in our libraries. When we weed out books, we're able to rearrange our libraries so it's much more pleasing for students to look at. I know that I'm used to a library where you go in and you see the binding of all the books and you're trying to read the author and the title. And the way they rearrange the libraries once we leave out the books is that they're able to really turn and showcase the book so the students can see the cover, see the illustration, so it really grabs their eye and has them. It'll save space if we get rid of those books that are no longer of use to us, and it can increase the use of the other materials we have in the libraries. So libraries now are not just places that house books, it's more of a media center, and we have more interactive materials in our libraries. We would go through and we would reduce duplicate copies if it's not a book that's really in high demand that multiple kids want to get out at the same time. And if it no longer fits the library's mission, we would eliminate that. And then we are supposed to be going through an inventory process each year, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And it'll really save time when we're inventorying if we narrow down the books that we have in the library. So, as Mr. Pullen said, myself and the principals met with Catherine Hamill and Ryan Ayers. They are BOE School Library Coordinator and Director, and they provided us with a lot of great information. They are the ones that provided that, the number of books that we have in our circulation per student. They help us with all the back-end data of seeing what books we're supposed to have and what books are missing and not returned. They can help us look at the frequency of circulation and what books are being taken out and which books are just sitting on the shelves. They help us with the age. They'll help us look at the wear and tear of books. And then we'll be looking at the cultural relevance and making sure that our students are seeing themselves in the books that they're reading. They'll be helping us redesign the libraries. Like I said, we really want to make it a little more of a learning space and making it very appealing to students. So taking that space that you've made look so nice with the fresh carpeting and paint and the lighting and making it so it's really a place where kids want to be. And then they're going to be leading this work along with our librarians. So it's not something that we're going to have them come in and really do to us. It's going to be a cooperative effort because our librarians do know our students and do know their interest. And we're going to have a say in kind of what books are staying and what books are weeded out. So once we get through the weeding process, we have to make sure we maintain it so we don't get into this place again where we don't really know what we have and we have an overabundance of materials. The way we do this is by doing an inventory at the end of each year. Our librarians will go through, and as part of that inventory process, there's a smaller weeding process within it each year. So books that have to wear and tear, are outdated, they can do that on a smaller scale. At this time is also when they look for the consistency between the back-end system and what's on the shelves to make sure that we know what books do we have here, what books weren't returned, and really keep that up to date. We want our librarians to be familiar with the collections. In recent months, year, there have been people who have been challenging books and are not comfortable with some of the books that are out there. It's very important for our librarians to know what's in their collection so that if we do go through that process where we're pulling the committee together to review a book, look at people's concerns and make a decision, that they're familiar with what the content is that is in those books. And then we'll be following a specific protocol that's provided by BOCES for our libraries to do this inventory. So a quote that I thought made a lot of sense is, a good library collection is like a good haircut. It's not what you cut, it's what you leave. So leaving things that we feel are going to be important to students. And there you can see the life cycle of a collection. And one thing that they talked to us about is that we tend to really get stuck in the acquisition phase and thinking more and more and more is better. But we really have to go through the rest of the process and see what's of interest to students, what are they checking out, and what is just sitting there to make sure that we can make it a really user-friendly space for our students. Also, Tina has provided you with an article and some pictures of another district, a building in Newark that went through this process. And you can kind of see what it looked like before and what it looks like now to kind of really be more appealing and rearranged for those students. So I'll give you a little bit of an idea of how we hope to see our libraries transform as we go through this process. Do you have any questions?
when I attended the Fort County Professional Development evening on libraries, I was so impressed with the need today to be sensitive, to balance with the amendment rights of free speech, to balance it with the changes that have occurred, say, in the last 20 years in what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And then to also maintain the integrity of authoring what we need to for kids. It's a tough act to do, really, and I'm really pleased that the library is you're working so hard with the librarians to keep our libraries up to date and appropriate. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, so thank you. I just want to give the board and the community a quick update, with respect to where we are with budget season. So, Gary and I presented to you back in the fall to start talking about what process we would follow when it comes to building the 24-25 school budget. So there's a few of the guidelines that we used over the last 2 weeks and continuing over the next few. We've been having building and department level specific budget meetings with our administrators and the directors so that we're continuing to refine what we bring to the board in the three-part process. But everything we do is based on making sure that what we provide our community is both educationally and fiscally sound, and that it reflects prudent fiscal practices. And again, we understand we're utilizing other people's money, so everything we do is based on efficiency and sustainability as well. So I gave you the factors in the fall. Here are a couple of things that we talk about that are specific goals as we move forward. So please, as I present, if there are questions or concerns or even comments, don't hesitate to stop me. But you can see those 5 priorities right there are to minimize our budget-to-budget increase. We know during the ever-changing financial times of the global economy, it's important to give our students in our community the best possible product, but do it within reason. We're going to obviously stay within that 2% tax cap limit. We're going to maintain our program as best as possible. We're going to continue to look at our bus replacement schedule, and then we're going to continue to focus on balancing out our capital projects with capital outlays. Megan's talking about the libraries tonight, so you know that last year and this year our focus has been on the high school library. That's been the focal point for our capital outlays. Moving forward for next year and the following, we're going to look at the elementary school auditorium, where we know that that's a large group instruction space, and we need to change that prior to the capital project starting in the remainder of the 1927 build. So just a quick update on some major budget items. Tuesday the governor gave her state of the state, and typically we would anticipate within a day or two we get our first projected runs from the governor's proposal. We also look forward to February, where we're given the retirement rates so that we understand what we need to do for ERS and TRS. And then obviously we work as part of a consortium. The last few years we've seen double-digit increases when it comes down to health care. So we're always monitoring those 3 things, as those are pretty much drivers in our administrative portion of our budget. So just to continue to go through a couple of other things for our community, that this is a collaborative process. We do take feedback feedback as to what our budget priorities are. And we're constantly assessing, are we meeting the needs of our public, and are we continuing to offer the best education possible in a fiscally sound manner? And really, we assess ourselves on that every year when we look at the percentage and the rate that the budget passes. And we continue to drive ourselves by looking at the feedback at the end of the budget season to see, did we hit our mark? Are we missing? You know, obviously with an approved budget, that's fantastic. That's a sign that we're doing good things, but we also want to know for the people who won't know, why is that and how can we get better? So these are key dates. We're going to continue to update you. I'm going to ask Gary to join me at a future board meeting. We're going to continue to put the budget out in the three-part process. You know, over the last few years, we've been very intentional with board and administrative workshops. We should know, as we said, within the next couple of days, what the governor's proposed aid will look like. We always understand that that's up for negotiation, so we never set our course based on what she projects right out of the gate. But if everything holds according, April 1 is her timeline to produce a statewide budget. And, you know, we understand there's some ebb and flow in that, but the last few years been fairly reasonable with timeline. So for our purposes, we've got a budget board workshop planned for April 4th, where we'll sit down and we'll really dive into the nitty-gritty of the budget. And then the following week, we would ask the board to consider adopting our budget for the 25-26 school year, or excuse me, 24-25 school year. And then on May 9th, we'll have a budget hearing. And then on May 21st is actually the vote. So this tonight really just kind of going in the process of where we're at. So I did a capital improvement project. So you've been seeing regular updates from me. I want to say to you that this is a quick view of our auditorium. You know, the contractor started on Monday in the auditorium. So you could see those seats that are in there. The seats are finished as of today. So the painting should be completed with some touch-ups that are going on. And the carpet and the LVT should be taking place over the next couple of days. And the electricians continue to work in the auditorium to use the rigging and sound equipment. The picture on the left is one of the classrooms from the Alternative Learning Center. That's one of the 4 from our quad for the Cougarats houses. So that's getting a fresh overhaul. And then, you know, the 3 pictures to the right are really just in reference to the elementary school gymnasium. The window restoration project was completed there right before our winter break. So I wanted to point out the difference that those windows make in the brightness of that gym as compared to what used to be there. So the construction project moving along nicely. My hope is that within the next couple of weeks, you know, the auditorium's about 85% complete as of next week, hopefully. And then those classrooms will be completed so we can get the students back into those classes. But we're moving along quite well. Any questions, comments, or concerns? As I said, just want to give you a quick overview of where we are budget-wise, and then just update you that the individual administrators and directors are having their specific building and department meetings, and then we'll give you a little bit more detail in the coming months. Yes, sir.
I've read that foundation aid is fully funded this year. So do we know that figure already?
We don't.
Okay.
So we're hoping that maybe tomorrow we'll get the first blush from the governor. You know, but I also know with respect to like the BOCES aid projection, Gary's been quick to remind me, don't get too eager because they gotta thin that out a little bit and make sure that it's appropriate and aligned the way it should be.
I understand. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I
couldn't help but think it was nice to have the new windows in the gym because the old ones would have probably blown out with all that wind. We come now to our reports and correspondence. We'll start with the building liaisons. John, do you have anything to report tonight from the elementary?
Yes. Okay. They have a fourth grade choir that's been started. And asking questions about it, there are 20 students there already, and more to come. That's very good. They meet once every 4 days, and they plan on having attendance at their concert, the Memorial Day activities, and the fourth grade graduation. So that's a really good sign for the music program. Dismissal has been an issue through the change throughout the years. They have additional parent pickup now. They have another option. So it's at the bus loop, and kids leave through the front doors and are loaded by the crosswalk at the east end of the building. The parent can use either method, and they were notified of this by a flyer parents wear and elementary newsletters. So the parents were well aware of the changes. It seems to work at this point, but like everything, it needs probably a little polish here and there. Ames Webb, they celebrated by coming back from Christmas break, holiday break, and gave them benchmark, gave them the students who were involved in the Ames Webb testing. Collaborative classrooms. We've been in that program for quite a while, and Lions sent 10, which is really good. Lions sent 10 of their educators to interview our educators, administrators, and coaches, instructional coaches, as to how we are doing it. So they were going to model what we have found that works. So, and according to Mrs. Graves, they were impressed with our students and teachers with a level of involvement and the reading instruction, even with the really, really young students, which is a real positive when fellow teachers say, you're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, that's good news.
Wow, you already know that.
And I certainly hope that the bus loop works out well for them, because I know that was an issue for many parents. Shelley, do you have anything to report from the middle school?
I do. So back in December 14th, there was a 4th Cougar Pride Assembly that was held. The focus is demonstrating a trait of the month. It was adaptability. And the nurse Colleen Barron and CCR aide Stephanie Kerr, they won the staff member of the month. And the Cougar Pride Assemblies continue to help build a strong culture here at the middle school. On December 20th, the presenter came to tell the 8th graders about the P-TECH program, and many of the students are very interested in the possibility of attending next year. On December 21st, Student Council restarted the tradition of the holiday tea, and they want to thank all of the retired teachers and board members who attended. It was a huge hit, and they're excited to have it back next year. On January 10th, the Wolcott Rotary honored 2 middle school students of the month. The students were Kaylee Sutton and Kit Wanick. These students were celebrated for exceedingly high academics and for exemplifying the Cougar traits. Excuse me. On January 10th, yesterday, they began their winter iReady testing for reading, and next week they will complete the iReady testing for math, and they're really looking forward to seeing all the student growth that the students have made since the beginning of the school year. And just a reminder, midterms will begin January 23rd through the 26th for the 7th and 8th grade students, and the students will be dismissed at 11:15 on these days.
Thank you. Busy times at the middle school. Linda, do you have anything from the high school?
I do. To start off, senior
Riley Batzel signed a letter of intent to play soccer at RIT, and she's going to major in mechanical engineering there next year. January's Cougar Pride Trade is being respectful, and those students that are nominated by staff are submitted for a weekly drawing where the person that wins the lottery that week gets to choose a prize from their incentive binder. And in January, the class challenges for each level is to recognize 2 classes with the least number of referrals. Last month's winners, when the contest was for the best attendance, the juniors and senior classes won, and they enjoyed cookies and hot chocolate. On December 21st, students working for the food drive became elves, and they either had the choice of helping a teacher or a junior class member. So that's a long-standing tradition they've had at the high school. Another tradition was student council had a tea party for faculty and staff, and while they were enjoying that, they listened to the chorus. Students are preparing for regents and midterms, and they're going to be having their iReady and English language arts diagnostic assessments as well. And there are going to be, after this is completed, there will be an ice cream party for everyone that has made accomplishments and improvements. So that's it.
Thank you. Well, the board will certainly be interested in all the results of all this testing that's coming up. And kind of a tough time for kids, but we wish them all well. We will delay the Cougar Ops report for the next meeting. Linda, do you have anything to report for Fort County?
I do. At the end of this month, on Wednesday, January 31st, the Wayne Finger Lakes Board of Directors is having a hybrid meeting, which I will be attending. And the Legislative Committee, which I'm on, has not met yet this month, but as I reported last month, we met with our area regent, and we were very impressed with his interest and his involvement already with our districts. And just a reminder that on February, well, something new, if you didn't read what was sent out from Fort County, on February 26th, there will be a presentation with the Superintendent of the Year for New York State will be presenting. Dr. Kevin McGowan has that honor, and he is the Superintendent of Brighton Central School District. And then on March 22nd, Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES is going to have his 2nd annual spring conference. Last year, as we all know, the focus was on school safety, and this year there's going to be a very remarkable speaker. I won't speak about that yet, but we will be sharing more information as time goes on.
Thank you. I have nothing to report on handbook. John, do you have anything to report on audit?
Yes, we had a meeting in January, and there are 4 items under the consent agenda having to do with the findings of the audit committee. I sent out minutes, but basically the F on there is the federal money and the audit of the federal grants. The one that I found extremely interesting was the procedural book manual being developed for each program. They're going to have a procedural manual, which makes a lot of sense, but it's got to be an awful lot of work because the number of federal programs we have is huge. Their G is a single audit report, and that lists all of our federal programs and the money spent. H is the extra classroom activity audit report, and we have a lot of educators in the audience, so extra classroom really means the clubs and activities that students are leading. And there are definite rules about those things, how money is deposited, when, and who signs for it, all that. And it's also easy to make mistakes of just not signing the right place or the right time. And I is the extra classroom activities action plan. And basically there were only like 1 or 2 different little things in that, which was amazingly good for the number of students who are involved in those clubs and activities, and the class advisors, and it was very well done. So the audit committee recommends when we vote for the consent, that we are in approval of those 4 items. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, is there anything to report from the District Safety Committee?
Not this month.
Okay. Paul, do you have anything to report from policy?
Nothing new, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Tina, do you have anything to report from personnel and negotiations? Okay. At this time, there's time set aside for public access to the board. Tina, is there anyone?
Jennifer Williams did sign up, but did you need to speak, Jennifer? Did you talk to Mrs. Collier?
Mrs. Collier.
Okay. There's no one else.
No one tonight, all right. And you don't have to listen to my spiel about public access. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda goes from page 1 through page 4. The bottom of page 4. Motion please to approve the consent agenda. Shelley and Tina. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Motion is carried. You'll turn now to page 5. Page 5 is the approval of policies. A motion please to approve the policies as presented in this second read. Paul and Linda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the policies as presented? Motion is carried. We're at the point of our agenda where board members may make requests or comments or bring forth discussion. Board members, anyone have anything tonight? Linda?
Well, I just want to say I can finally present you with this book from the Wayne County Bicentennial Committee, The Voices of Wayne County Bicentennial book, and it's stamped as presented by them. And our own Mrs. Collier has an article. She has part of it. So I want to present that to you on behalf of the Bicentennial Committee for the district's use.
Thank you, Linda. We appreciate your presentation, and we appreciate the Bicentennial Committee for the gift of the book. I'm pretty sure there are some still around if anyone is interested in purchasing one. The book is a collection of short vignettes or poems or thoughts on Wayne County's past. And there's some really neat little stories in there. The one that I presented was on the fire in the little hamlet of North Rose, when the town burned. All of the businesses burned one very windy, stormy night, and it was an interesting little blurb that my mother-in-law told me about, because it was her father's store that was one of the things that burned. And she was a little girl and was plopped in the middle of the road on a pile of their belongings that people had taken out and told, don't move. And it's some of her memories, which is they're interesting. Anyone else have anything? Paul?
Just so a suggestion then for the next meeting, can we get an update on the survey efforts, survey process?
Oh, I can give it to you now. So
Okay.
we're in process working with the vendor. So there are some things that we have to do with respect to the reporting system, so level 0. So Lori Elliott, Lisa Brower, and myself are working on compiling that information. It'll be a measured step because, as you can imagine, with the number of students and the amount of data we have to collect and get that turned out, but we're pretty confident that we'll be administering it this spring, you know, and being able to collect those results before the end of the school year. And as I said, in December, really looking into that stuff over the summer and gearing our school improvement and our district improvement plans for that. But I think that we're heading in the right direction. You know, the holiday jammed us up a little bit, time-wise, but feel good about it.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to good news. Does anyone have good news? We've had lots of good news, starting with Mason tonight. That's been marvelous. At this point, this completes our agenda and the business part of our meeting. At this time, the board needs to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing a legal matter. May I have a motion, please, to go into executive session? John and Tina, any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We will leave you. I promise you, we will not be doing any business when we return other than adjourning the meeting. So bid you good night unless you decide you want to stay.